This is the Todd Shapiro Show on Canada Talks, SiriusXM 167.
Okay. Well, this is always fun, catching up with an individual, one of their subsidiaries of is Canmark.com, actually, and their parent company, Namaste Technologies.com. We have our weekly updates with what's going on in the cannabis space and some company news releases and things that we bring to life here. Please welcome back Darren Gill. Hi, Darren.
Hey, how's it going, man?
I'm good, man. Hey, if I'm a little distracted, I apologize. I'm sort of doing this work in vacay in a town called Baysville near where my cottage is. And you having young ones, my little one is here. I couldn't get like a sitter or anything for him. So while I'm doing it for the Baysville barber, he's starting to lose his mind. So I apologize in advance if I'm a little distracted.
I think you and I have had a few phone calls where I've had a screaming one in the background too, so that's okay.
Well, I think it's like a sort of a testament, though, to really like hardworking families where, women, men, we all work. Obviously, it's a way different day and age. And at times you got to get to work while you have little ones. It's sort of like, especially when you're running a business from a radio show to a major tech cannabis company, there's sort of like it kind of is 24/7.
No, I've done some phone calls from some interesting places, including the bathroom where I'm trying to get away from the screaming baby to not have background noise, to walking around in the middle of the night, trying to get a pacifier in the mouth while rocking the baby and trying to focus on what I need to talk about. So.
Yeah, well, my kid just flicked a shoe and spilt the sugar everywhere, so now we're not allowed back at the Baysville barber, so it's amazing. Let's talk about business, though, and company stuff. How's everything going at Namaste Technologies for you, Darren?
Things are going good. We're continuing to try to work and plug away. We've got some new product that's coming online. Again, we're working to add new product just about every week now. There's a few interesting things that I think we'll be able to share publicly over the next week where, again, we've been continuing to work deals, work the pipeline, expand our product offering. So definitely, good stuff continuing to come.
Good to hear. And in terms of like the we have these conversations about for shareholders and stocks and things like that. How is it? Like the summer months are very interesting in the cannabis space, and I'm always amazed that it's so weird the cycles that happen, or at least appear to happen. Is there any explanation for that stuff?
I think especially for companies like ours where we have a heavy retail investor base. Folks look at the stock price on a daily basis, and, a lot of folks have their livelihoods invested in companies like this. And, again, you and I have been very vocal around doing due diligence and investing what you can and not your life savings. But, the summer months, it's not just cannabis. I've worked in oil and gas. I've worked in automotive. I've worked in tech. The Bay Street guys all go on vacation. The Wall Street guys go on vacation. Folks are not focused on their investment portfolio. It's, kind of goes into idle mode and the markets generally go through a dip. And, I think especially with legalization, in terms of phase 2 in Canada coming out, we've continued to see interesting news out of Europe. It'll be great to see what happens with Mexico in October here. I think you're going to see another momentum push for the cannabis industry. And, I think we're well positioned to catch the upswing on that as well.
Good to hear, Darren. And I also think, just as an investor in many different sort of companies, I also think the same thing. And that's how it works out. So what's going on in Europe now with cannabis? How's the expansion going on there?
So Europe's actually had a few interesting news articles over the last couple of weeks. One of them, a few members of parliament from London were actually down in Ontario touring a few cannabis facilities. And one of them was speaking to the media and just had brought up the fact that, they've legalized, obviously, medical for a few specific reasons, being severe nausea from cancer treatment, early childhood epilepsy, and seizures. But there's an active consult going on right now in London where they're looking at other medical symptoms, that folks in Canada prescribe for all the time, things like anxiety, sleep apnea, chronic pain. And that legislation is expected to come forward this summer. But, it was the first time we've heard them talk about recreational legalization and kind of painting this kind of 3 to 5 year time horizon. from some fairly high-ranking members of parliament over there. So you can already start to see, that they're in Canada, they're looking, learning what we've done, and this is again, where Canada's become the sandbox environment for a lot of these other countries looking to move towards that legalization process and kind of coming through and seeing what we've done. And I think that's a great way to showcase what our forward-thinking nature as Canadians at a global scale.
Yeah, I know that Luxembourg will become the first European country to legalize production and consumption of cannabis. And they're even saying they want all of EU and their neighbors to join it. I had a chat with one of the individuals from bovadainc.com the other day, right here on air. And the one thing that I'm really amazed by for governments abroad that haven't really figured this out, and even really just below us, is the fact that, and I'm sure you're really proud of this over at Namaste Technologies, but and something again that we've also touched on, but the job creation, it's in a day and age where jobs are a little more scarce. People are always concerned about unemployment rates, of course. I would just think it would feel so wonderful as big companies to knowing that they're giving people employment, growing companies, give them great opportunity, especially with publicly traded companies with options and things of that matter. But just knowing that other countries could really benefit from job growth from this. Does that always surprise you?
Again, I think being in the business now and kind of looking at what cannabis has done within the Canadian market, it's a no-brainer. And then on top of that, we continue to see StatsCan reports come out around how many millions and millions of dollars, tens of millions of cannabis has moved through the product and how much that's generated in terms of tax revenues. And, it's great you touched on Luxembourg, and you're absolutely right. The framework for their legalization is supposed to come out later this year. And, they're talking about a 2-year rollout process. But the health minister there had talked about another thing that you and I have brought up before, which is the whole destigmatizing of it, and his views on it, which I found rather interesting, was again around the notion of, hey, we regulate everything so tightly that it becomes taboo and something youth want to try. And this is them showing forward thinking to the rest of Europe in terms of actually, no, let's regulate it, let's control it, and let's get the stigma removed from it. So it's not something youth are actively searching out. And because we're actively removing it from the black market, that it'll help alleviate the ease of access that I think you can find in any school across this country today.
We have Darren Gill from NamasteTechnologies.com, just talking everything to do with cannabis. One of the things I've always wanted to ask you, I always forget when we don't, we're on air and I'm like, oh yeah, I got to bring this up, and then I forget, I get mad at myself. One of the things as sort of shareholders, we often hear and see news releases on for publicly traded companies are basically M&A transactions, and that's sort of mergers and acquisitions and stuff. And I know that Namaste Technology is always sort of acquiring and looking to acquire private companies, help grow your sort of umbrella and everything that you're doing. How often is a company like yours looking to get into the M&A game and to really expand, or is it are you at Namaste Technologies now sort of content with what is under that umbrella and just sort of focused on streamlining and moving forward?
I think being content and stagnant is a slow death for a company. I think especially in a space like cannabis, we're always looking at what's our current product portfolio, what's our current tech portfolio, what markets and segments are we servicing, and what are the gaps that we need to do to close that and capitalize on new opportunities that emerge. And I think a great example of that is we've taken some strategic bets with companies like Pineapple Express, which is the same-day delivery. If you're in the GTA and you're ordering from canmart.com, you can get your cannabis delivered to you within 4 hours. That's some of the best customer service I feel on the face of the planet. It's a great group of guys over there. And similar, we've taken a 49% position in a premier chocolate manufacturing company in Alberta, Chocolate Inc. They're one of the first companies to submit a complete evidence package for an edibles license. And so, we're, again, taking a strategic bet with a company that was already producing, confectionery products that were non-infused. They're, in Safeway and Sobeys stores throughout Western Canada right now. and available at a whole host of private stores. They've got a great online product assortment as well. But, again, finding the opportunity that these guys already have brand recognition, they're already producing in a food safe compliant facility, for us to be able to take that, simply peel the non-infused products out literally to a facility down the road. We had a turnkey operation ready to go. We were able to upfit all the security requirements and really accelerate the path. And for us, for the amount of money we'd invested there, it was a fairly safe bet to, let's see how this goes. And down the road, we've always got an option at taking a larger stake or whatever is going to make sense for our business. But it's positioning the organization strategically to be able to capitalize on these opportunities as they come up.
The business talk of sort of any industry, I don't care what people are doing, from tech to cannabis to, I don't care, start opening up a convenience store. It makes me horny, Darren Gill. I love hearing that the big brains and how business actually happens. And one obviously is someone pursuing some stuff on my own, which I always like learning from the best. What about the banking issue that's going on right now with cannabis companies in Canada? I've been hearing that some of the big name banks are for some reason pulling out of working with cannabis companies, even though they were doing for quite some time. Is that sort of surprising to you? Because it's legal across the board.
It is, and it's unfortunate. I think I've been in the space now for 4 years, and the amount of flip-flopping that you've seen happen with the banking industry. I was the program director for the province of British Columbia, and for us to get bank accounts was a interesting conversation, and that's as a government entity. And a lot of these companies hold U.S. assets. They've got, strategic U.S. investments. They do a lot of cross-border work. And at the end of the day, it's almost unfortunate. It's that catch-22. Yeah, you want to support the cannabis industry here, but if you're present in the U.S. market, and we know the size of that economy, a lot of these companies simply can't risk losing an opportunity to do business in the U.S. to support, what I think is Canada's green industry for all intents and purposes. And they get caught between a rock and a hard place. If you have a leadership change and risk tolerances change, all those things play factors. And I think banking through and through for years has been an extremely conservative industry. And so for them to move forward and try to push through some of this, we're going to continue to see a bit of a struggle, but I think where someone steps down, somebody usually steps up, and you get a healthy balance.
The other thing I know is that Cannabis Canada and here in Ontario gets set for the second pot license lottery. That's really, again, another thing we've talked about, really the lack of stores, which sort of allows the black market to thrive and continue. That's got to be sort of reassuring for cannabis companies to know that at least there is some expansion planned.
No, definitely. I think, Ontario, you look at the size of the market there and the fact that we've had one round of lottery winners so far. And even this go around, the way they've done the lottery is a little different, where now you have to actually be able to demonstrate you've got the funds to build a store. Because a lot of these folks that, you had everybody and their uncle apply for a lottery, to be able to get a cannabis store. These folks didn't have business experience. They didn't have the resources. They were literally hoping to win the golden ticket and be able to resell it, which, you can't knock people for trying to make a buck. But you look at our friends over in Alberta, and the fact that they're tracking to be, 250 stores here pretty soon. They've already kind of broached that 200 number. And you look at the fact that, that's a minute percentage of the Canadian population, yet almost 50% of the cannabis sold has been sold in that one province. It speaks volumes to their approach of, don't get in the way of the private sector and let the cards fall where they may, which I think has served that province and their economy very well.
Good to hear from Darren Gill. And just before we run, Darren, is there anything I'm lacking, I'm missing? Is there anything is there a birthday shout out you want to give to someone? What can we do here?
Well, my wife's birthday is coming up in September, and I've definitely planned a little surprise for her down in San Diego. So that's about the only shout out I think I would have to give in the month of August. I'm usually done birthdays by the beginning of July and don't have anything till September.
I love it, man. And back to that sort of work-life family balance, you with a couple of little ones at home right now, some suggestions for people on how to do that. I always love talking to the real human side of people.
I think honestly is, what I generally try to do for myself is I'll take a Saturday or a Sunday, whatever's, easiest based on the work schedule, and completely unplug. I put my phone in my nightstand drawer and it doesn't come back out till the next day. And, I think a mentor of mine once told me, it doesn't matter how important you think your job is. You're not a brain surgeon and you're not saving lives. That phone call can likely wait a day, when it comes time to spending time with your kids and your family. And I think we sometimes build situations up to the, I need to respond now and I just need to deal with this one thing. Disconnecting is a huge part of it. And I think, it'll have positive impact in your personal relationships and the time and quality you're spending with your kids.
I love it, man. I think that's just brilliant advice. Thank you, Darren Gill from Namaste Technologies.com. I look forward to having our weekly next week at some point, and I'm wishing you the best. It's Friday tomorrow, but a great weekend and one full, wonderful day with the fam. And thank you again for making us all brighter. We do appreciate it.
Thank you, Todd. Appreciate it as always.
Cheers, Darren. What a great dude and a great company, Namaste Technologies.
This is the Todd Shapiro Show on Canada Talks, SiriusXM 167.